Hello, everybody. For now, Cristina Chumillas works at Imbra as designer and front-end developer, and she's going to speak us about the current process for web design on a responsive scenario. Thanks for coming.
Hello, everybody. As he said, I'm Cristina Chumillas. I'm designer and front-end developer at Imbra Drupal shop and design agency in Barcelona. You can find me as Cristina on Drupal.org or Chumillas on Twitter. And today I'm going to talk about how to improve or how is the responsive web design today. I've made a responsive talk 3 years ago and another 2 years ago in other DrupalCamp Spain. And the first one, they were completely different. Everything has changed a lot since then. The first one was just an introduction. And that moment, we needed to convince the customer that they needed that. Nowadays, it's completely different. And there's been a lot of time since that, and we have learned a lot of things that we shouldn't do. On 2008, Mary Meeker said that mobile was going to overtake fixed internet access on 2014. Actually, it goes like that, and nowadays it's about 60%. When we talk nowadays, the thing that has changed, we have introduced a lot of concepts, a lot of processes that has changed how we do a responsive on our day. We have introduced, everybody knows now the content first concept and mobile design term. Content first is thinking always first in the content that the user is going to consume, the user is searching for. So you have to think, of course, on the text, on titles and that stuff before all the other things. And mobile first design is, as you may all know, is designing first on a mobile. Thinking first how to put that content into a mobile first, and then after that design all the other stuff. Another thing that has changed since some years ago is that we don't work with static compositions anymore. We don't use Photoshop, Illustrator, Sketch, or that stuff because it's not responsive, it's fixed, so they don't work. We work with responsive prototypes, and we should go to the browser quickly because the decisions that we make about how our website will be, we have to take that decisions on the browser because it's where the user is going to consume our content. Another thing that has changed is that we can't work with lorem ipsum, we can't work with fake content, because if we are saying that the content the content is the king, people is searching for that content, we can't take all these decisions on fake content. So when we design, we make our websites, we should work always with real content. Not the final content maybe, because there are always some changes, but we should work with real content. And another thing that has changed since then, that has changed a lot since then, is that atomic design and components and this stuff has appeared, and it has changed how everything works on the front end and design and all that related things, and it's a huge improvement. We could talk about a lot of things, but we should talk about performance first of all, because it's the big problem with the responsive websites. Because we could say that responsive is usability, because when a user access to our website, They expect that the website loads before 4 seconds. After that, the visitor probably will leave the website. But on that year's website, the average page weight has been increasing year after year. Last year, on 2015, it was 16%. But the year before, it was another 15%. The year before, I think it was 30%, so it's increasing and increasing. And nowadays, the average is it's more than 2 megabytes, and it's a lot of time. It's a lot of weight. So when we start thinking in responsive, we should think in deciding our performance budget. We should decide how fast or how many resources we are going to put on the performance. We should decide, for example, if we want a website that will load in 2 seconds. 2 seconds is quite a good time. The perfect one will be 1 second. Let's say 2 seconds. We are talking about mobile first, so we are going to ask for fast 3G. Not everybody has fast 3G, so anyway, fast 3G. So if we want a website to load in 2 seconds in a 3G network, we only have 200 kilobytes. That's really, really, really low. So we should decide on what things we expend our kilobytes. Usually, images take most of the part of our average of our percentage. Of course, there's HTML, CSS, and the other stuff. You can find and search and decide all that stuff on the website performancebudget.io. It's really super easy and really useful. Why are we saying that performance is usability? Because when in human interaction, when we do an interaction during the first second, we perceived it that it's immediate, an immediate interaction. If it's between 1 and 5 seconds, we just perceive it as normal human interaction, that it will be normal speaking with someone, a normal interaction. If we pass of that between 5 and 10 seconds, we still have the attention of the user. They are not really concentrating on that. They're perceiving a delay there, but they're still there. But after that, they are not there. You've completely lost the user. So we say that the perceived performance, it's what is really important. Not the performance itself, the objective one, but the perceived, the thing that the customer will perceive, the visitor will perceive. To give you some example, I've took some screenshots for the website Listapart. I don't know if you know it. It's one of the best examples I found, because they really take advantage of that perception. First, they start on the first image. There's nothing on the browser, on the screen, because they are loading the HTML. After that, they are loading when the HTML is read. The browser found that there's the CSS, jQuery and Modernizer, and other stuff that you need to print everything on the browser. So the browser already has the HTML, so has the CSS, so the browser prints the content. And you already have the title, the text, the content that the user is searching for. After that, they download the logo, the header image, that they are at the top of the browser, and of the window, and you will see it. And then they start loading other stuff. Other images, footer background, other JS stuff. But then they start, look at the first one, there's the title, and then at the second one, there's no title anymore, because they start loading the fonts. During that time, if you are in a really, really low connection, you've been able to read the content. So you've been doing something until the full website is loaded. So your perception of the performance of the website is completely different to the objective perception of the full website. So when we approach the performance budget, we should think on that, not only the whole website, but the things that we are loading at the beginning. I've prepared a small demo with a 2G connection, this same website, and you will see that there are some differences. The same process, but in mobile. Here loads the image, the content is there, the text disappears, appears again with the correct typo, that's the correct font, and then images, other things related, then all the stuff is loaded. So at the beginning, you really don't perceive that there's a huge part of the website that is still not there. So the perception is really, really important on the performance. If we should have to do a recap on a list of things that are important on the front end, to improve the performance, we could say that we have to optimize image files, we have to concatenate all the files together, we have to minify them, compress them, catch everything. Do you remember it from the performance page of Drupal? Drupal does it for core, for the core stuff. Remember, if you do a theme for yourself, not everything of that is done. So here's where the themer, the team that is developing the website must know all the stuff that they are doing. So we could start with the CSS structuring and optimization. And for that, we should start with talking about CSS methodologies like object-oriented CSS, BEM, block element modifier, and SMAX. BEM is a naming convention. Object-oriented CSS is really related to the object-oriented stuff that is going around with other language programming. And SMARCS is how you structure your CSS files. Why is that so important? Because you are reusing your CSS, so you reduce the page size of the website, so you increase the page rendering speed. It also gives you faster CSS rendering, because, for example, if you have, if the browser has to find a box that is the last child that inside has a title, instead of that, you just use a class using block element modifier convention. You will find exactly that component, that element, and the browser will go directly to it. So if you have only one thing with a bad naming convention, it won't be any problem, but imagine a huge page with a lot of that box, NTH, last child. At the end, it's a lot of things. So it's really good to use it. Of course, it's not only about performance, it's also about having a large-scale ready project, because it helps you to figure out what's your design made of, what's there. And also it helps you to get started in a project, because if someone comes to the project and you are following that conventions, they will know where to start and where's everything and what's everything. Another thing that has changed from the beginning are the living style guides. A living style guide is a living document of code that details everything that is on your website. You have everything related to that. You can find the headers, the colors, but also, for example, the teaser If you have a teaser, and you will have there the markup of the teaser, the CSS, and the theming for the teaser. If that teaser has some variation, you will have on the style guide, so the backender will know how to, or the backender, site builder, or the frontend will know how do you expect to have the markup. And if you change anything, it's a living style guide, so it will change, so everybody will know how to expect that it should be. It's also good because it gives you a faster build times for new section and pages, because you already have it on the style guide, so you can reuse it. It is standardized, the CSS. So it's everything small, you are reusing it, you are loading it really fast, and of course it's really good for design consistency, and it's then easier to maintain. Another thing that has changed a lot from the beginning is that we don't work with pixels anymore. We work with relative units. They are really, really good for layouts, of course, but also for all the other stuff. A relative unit is always based on the line height that you have fixed for your website. The browser has the default one, but if you fix it for your browser, for your project, it will have your own one. But you can choose between REMs and AMs. They are pretty similar. It gives some confusion sometimes, but we really should know what's the difference, because what we usually want is use REMs instead of AMs. The REM is always the same. Whatever you use the REM unit, it will follow always the line heights that you've fixed to the website. But if you are using AMs, for example, you have a 16 pixels line height, and you have, for example, a div with that you say it, okay, it's 1.1 AM. It will be 17 pixels, but if inside that div you put another element with 1.1 AM, it won't be the previous one. It will be 1.1 from the previous one. So it's increasing. So you don't control that so much as you can with REMs. So if you can choose, use that. Of course, not pixels, if you can avoid it. Another thing that you should do on your responsive websites is the viewport sites unit. For me, it was like almost magic when I discovered them, because it was like, it really exists. I was always working with max width, but come on, how I get the height of the browser, because it's impossible to find. So they can save your life, especially with designs with hero images or hero videos on the background. Remember them. That's an example. I don't know if you know that there's a summer, Drupal summer in Barcelona. Some spam here. Another thing to take into account when you are approaching a responsive website is typography. Typography, the fonts has been a good improvement, a great improvement for design on website, but there are some things to take into account. When you decide the font that you're going to use and the size of the font that you're going to use, you have to decide it taking into account the distance of the user from the screen. You have a mobile here, but if you work with a desktop, it's here. It's not here. It's bigger, but it's here. And if you work with a screen, a TV, for example, it's even farther. So the size of the text will be really bigger. On mobiles, we will say a good size will be around 14 pixels, and for desktop will be 16 pixels. But the key on that is having the main text, the main important text, and then counting the characters that you will have in the whole line of text, and it should be between 14 and 18. Never less than that, never more than that, because it's really hard to go imagine from that line that is here, when you go back, which is the line? People don't know. So remember, always be between that, and also it will give you the size that you should use on your general font. Responsive typography, it's really, really, really important to have in mind that it's some weight that you are adding to your budget. Fonts should be a 5% of the whole budget. If we say that we have 200 kilobytes, we only will have 10 CAS for the fonts. It's really, really low. Just to make some comparisons, Open Sans, it's really, really used. The TrueType format, it's 38 CAS, and the WOV2 new format, it's only 18. The regular, not the italic, not the bold, just that. What does that mean? That if you think, okay, I have a lot of fonts, I'm going to use the Comic Sans. No, I'm going to use, and I don't know, some font for the title, another one for the text, because it will be more, I don't know, hipster, for example, I don't know. Remember, you are adding a lot of stuff, okay? Something that is really useful for us is using Google Fonts. I don't like using it. I don't like depending on third-party things. But what Google does is, if you are arriving to a website with Chrome, he will only load that. He won't load the TrueType. And for the Internet Explorer, he only will load that one. So they know they have improved a lot. They will load the font only when it's needed, and only the one that is needed. If you have to do that for your own, it's almost impossible to arrive to get that perfection, not perfection, but that improvement. So I would say that Google Fonts is a really great solution. I don't like it, but Google no, but it's a really good solution. And remember when we were looking the loading page, that it first loaded the content, after it the fonts, and that moment that it was white, that's the fault, flash of unstyled text. Some years ago, it was the flash of unstyled content, and it disappeared, and the browser said, okay, it's not a good option, we should change it. And also with the text, at the beginning, people perceived it as a bad interaction, that loading something in a way and then changing it. And then decide the browsers to change to the flash of invisible text. What does that mean? That until the font is loaded, they don't show you the text. But what were we saying about performance? They don't see anything until all the fonts are loaded. So it's not good. So after it, there are being some changes. Google has a lot of improvements on that. Google Fonts, they have it. The good thing will be load first the text and only use fonts that you need on the, for example, on the titles, on that stuff. And the main content still remaining with, for example, a general system font, because on 14 sizes, unless you are a designer, a good typography designer, you don't see that difference. So don't use so many fonts. So In general, we should have into account the readability. We should use the correct font size depending on the container. We should use less fonts because what I was saying, do you really need them? I don't think so. Use modern form formats like WOF, always that you can. If it reduces a lot the page weight, and of course, I won't put it here, but I will say Google Fonts, but not officially. And after that, images. Images, well, images, they have been on the website since the beginning. All of us know it. Yes, no. It looks really basic. JPG is for images, for photos. PNG is for images, sample images, and PNG 24 is for transparencies. It's really simple, but please remember it. Once I was working on a website, I was making the last check to just the day before going live. And we were testing on, we use continuous integration, and we were using default content. And I went to the website, and I started to check, okay, let's see the final budget that we have, 4 megas. It was like, what? What's going on? What happened is that the person that made the default content used PNG for images. Well, I almost died there. So try to remember. It's basic, but try to remember. Images are around 61% of the whole average page weight. They load asynchronously. They load when they are needed, so they don't block the page rendering. And we should always load the images that we need. We shouldn't use the images too big for the device. So the main, the aim here should be to deliver the highest image quality supported for that device. Don't load the browser, the desktop image on the mobile, because we all know it's responsive. We shouldn't do it. What has changed from the years before the responsive is that we have that new spec that, as Sherry said, sorry, my English is really bad spelling that. For that, it's a basic responsive image. It loads the same image on different weights. It just, on that size, we load that image. On that size, we load that other image. We also have the size here with viewport units. And we have the fallback for Internet Explorer and their friends and that stuff. That will be the normal responsive image, but what about if we want a really different image, because on desktop it's wide and the other side and on mobile is vertical. Then we use picture. It's quite new. We have it on Drupal, of course, but it let you use different images and different formats for each media query. So it should be the best option to use, and Drupal helps us on that, but we should always have it here, the fallback for Internet Explorer and their friends. That's a quite quick example. In mobile is completely different. We have here the important part. So in Drupal there are different solutions to code that. And here we have the desktop image. Drupal is not everything, so there are a lot of options to have responsive images. There are cloud images. I will put the PDF so you are able to take it. Okay. Okay, I don't have time, so you will see it later. SVGs. SVGs, there are a lot of good things here because I love it. They should have been on the website since the beginning, but Internet Explorer and their friends didn't thought that at the beginning. So why SVG are really a good improvement on your website? Because they are scaled based on the target where we are loading it. It scales to any size without losing the clarity, the perfection of the image. They look great on Retina displays. The design control, and they let you design control, like interactivity and this stuff. They are future-proof because they will continue being the same on the future. Whatever you do now, it will still be good on the future. They are really easy to make and edit. They are highly compressive, and you can automate it. And you can manipulate it with CSS and GS, but not in Internet Explorer. Another thing that we should take into account is that asynchronous loading is really important. As we were saying, we were seeing on the loading process, if we can load some things after the page rendered, it's really good for performance. So, what happens when we request something, when we load something? At the beginning, there's the HTML. When we ask, there's the connection setup. Then the request is sent. The connection is a lot of time. Then the request is sent. There's the waiting response. That's why we should try to avoid request a lot of things. And finally, download, that is really fast. After that, when we already have the HTML, then we load the CSS, JavaScript, whatever we need. And after that, here, we can start printing the content. And after that, we can load all the other stuff that we need. That is not really important to consume the content. The normal behavior, the default behavior that we use when we put some styles, or especially some JavaScript, is that we put them on the head. First the style, first the CSS, and after it, JavaScript. So the browser, when it first read it, it loads it, and after that, it reloads that. Now we have some specs that is asynchronous, that most of browsers understand it. If not, they just ignore it. So, and that lets you load the JavaScript, and that the HTML is still parsing. It lets you the execution, it lets you that the JavaScript execution has no longer to wait for the CSS, but you can guarantee the order of the JavaScript execution, so if something depends on the other, you have to take into account. The script shouldn't use document write. Well, it's I have to go further. It doesn't block the DOM content load event, so you have to take into account a lot of things when you are loading asynchronously. You also have the defer spec. What it does, the good thing on that instead of the other is that you control well, you control the order of the JavaScript execution. That's the good part on that. But the bad one is that asynchronous goes always first to that one. So you have to use both of them depending on what you need. Another way to use JavaScript is the one that we are saying, the asynchronous or the other. We can put the JavaScript here, because, for example, we want to load it on every page, but then you can't catch that. But you can load some JavaScript here, and depending on that, load some JavaScript or load another one. And also you can put it on the bottom of the page. Another important thing are the proxy-based browsers. The proxy-based browsers, or Opera, for example, Opera Mini, for example, or Opera, I'm culpable, I always do that. We forget them. They work different from the other browsers. What they do is they load the page in their server, they process it, and then they get you whatever they decided that is going to be your website. What does that mean? That it reduces the bandwidth, but they decide the JavaScript and a lot of stuff on their browsers. So there's a lot of JavaScript behaviors that you won't be able to use on them. And a lot of people just say, okay, there's not so many people using them. No, there are 250 millions of people around the world using it, mainly on that countries. It's the first browser there, and just here, India, how many people lives there? It's a lot of people, so we should think on that. Some tips for designing or developing for proxy-based browser will be use SVGs always that you can instead of icon fonts because they are not supported. Style your HTML with CSS, not JavaScript. Test your site without JavaScript. I don't do always that, and it's a bad way of doing it. And make your site performant. It's, of course, we are taking into, well, it's important for the other stuff, but for them it's also important. And test in Opera Mini. You will be scared when you see your website on Opera Mini without testing it, and you go live and then, Opera Mini, oof, no, never do that. Just, if you can, just take a look, and you will discover small things and you can fix quick. So what it says is that progressive engagement is really, really important, and it's a great approach for responsive web design in general, not only for proxy-based browser, for everything, that you should you should start always with the basic content and think that the person that is going to consume it in a browser, in an old browser or low internet connection, they will get the basic content, and after it, there should be the enhanced version of the content for new iPhones, for 4G, and after that. But always think on the small, and then progressively encase it. Another thing with there are too many things. Another thing with the responsive website is that we should be beyond the mouse. Okay, we have touch displays, we have keyboard, we have TVs that there's no touch, it depends on the TV, it goes with one thing or another thing. So we should save hover shortcuts, we should save the hover just for shortcuts. We shouldn't we shouldn't base our development on hovers, because there's a lot of people that won't be able to access content. For example, if you have a link to another site, to another place that it looks like a link only when you hover it, they won't discover that it's a link, so they won't be able to access there. So be accessible in browser where a mouse pointer may not exist, and don't assume that touch will be used, but develop as it was going to be. Keep in touch, it means let people touch things, and gestures, don't try to override it, because I'm going to make a great interaction here. I'm going to make like a magazine website, and I'm going to move the website from right to left. There are a lot of device browsers that it's a default gesture, so you are overrating things. So the visitor can be angry because, wait, I can do something that I'm doing on other places here, so don't override things. And save, well, I've switch the slides. When you have to keep in touch, it means that it has to be touchable. It has to be around 57 and 45 pixels, the minimum for a finger. If it's for the thumb, it's a little bit bigger, and remember always space around it, because it can be, if they are together, then you press one or the other. And responsive, finally, there are a lot of responsive patterns and a lot of things that they are already working on other websites. People know how they work, so you should reuse a lot of stuff. You shouldn't reinvent the wheel on every website or design you are doing. So reuse navigation patterns. It's really, really, really useful because people will know how to use your menu, for example. Reuse UI patterns, I don't know, for example, buttons or a lot of other stuff. Reuse it, and grid patterns, because people will know where to find the content. And finally, that's a conclusion. Kill them, please. So thank you, and if you have any questions. Questions?
Your presentation. We're very, very short on time, but maybe we have time for a few questions. How many people has questions? Any questions? Okay, that's that.
When you talk about the flash and style text and the other strategy, right? I guess you have to choose one, right?
No.
No.
Yes. Yes and no.
And how can you do that? That's my question.
The default, it depends on the browser, because they started with the Fold, the first one that they show the content and then they changed. Then they decided that it was not good, so there then appeared the Void. And some browsers are just going back, not all of them. And you also can change it with JavaScript or with other stuff. For example, Google Fonts let you load the fonts after the content. So you have to you have to test it. You have to make it conscientemente.
Consciously, yeah.
Consciously, thank you. So you have to make it. If you want something, you have to go for that.
And another question: when you have, when you want to make by your own that stuff about loading the font type that Google does for you, how do you do that with JavaScript? I guess.
I don't do that for myself. I use Google Fonts.
So
it saves a lot of time. It works. It works well, and it saves a lot of time. So.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyone else has any questions? No? Well, thanks for your speech again. No?
Thank you, and
Thanks.
if you want Drupal Summer stickers, there are some here.
Thanks.
Thank you.